Welcome to Gray Maybe, a limited series podcast and social experiment based on this season's topic, grief. My name is Jillian Schmitz. I'm a professional dancer, actor, teacher, author, artist, and cat lover. Through my own personal journey of recovery, I found that things aren't just black or white, or a simple yes or no. For me, in my recovery, there has been mostly gray area and a lot of maybes. In most of my stories, you can find the gray maybe. I'll be sharing my own process through personal stories and interviews with others in an effort to help investigate the process of and recovery through grief. If you'd like to share your story, please email graymaybestories@gmail.com. graymaybestories@gmail.com. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please subscribe on whichever platform you're using to catch future episodes of Gray Maybe. A note before we start. My stories and the stories of others on this podcast are told through the lens of our own experience. The revelation of our process is ours to tell. If you disagree with the views or stories on this podcast, know that we are not speaking on anything other than our own experiences and viewpoints. Take what you like and leave the rest. Nothing expressed or mentioned in this podcast is an endorsement or is meant to be taken as advice. It is strictly the sharing of our own experiences and recovery. Any feelings this podcast activates in the listener is for the listener to process and recover from. Any criticism you have based on these experiences and choices are yours, and they are not anyone else's burden to carry. Trigger warning: death, brain cancer, sudden death. Hey everybody, welcome back to Gray Maybe. I'm really glad you're tuning in. If you are a fan of Gray Maybe and you listen all the time, I'm so happy that you are listening all the time. And if you are just tuning in today, I'm so glad to have you, and I hope you consider listening to some other episodes. Today I have a wonderful, wonderful lady who I actually haven't been able to see in a long time, so this is exciting for me. Her name is Abbi Puanani. She and I know each other because she used to co-own a company called Dollhouse Entertainment. If you are in the burlesque and nightlife world, you know who Dollhouse Entertainment is. You know who Abby is. You know who Miss Dakota is. They had a company together, very successful. I did some of their shows. I worked with them. I got to see a lot of their shows. And they have split that company, and now Abby has a company called Concrete Entertainment Group, still doing shows, some really great shows. And that is how I know Abby. Now, Abby has been very, very transparent about the subject of grief. And I've always found that super remarkable and super bold. And it's never been a situation where, oh no, there's that sad person, I need to avoid them, but someone who was really real about their process and let kind of people know what their process was and how they were going through it. And I think it was a great example. I always think of her as this really great example of someone kind of like letting people know where they were in this process, because unlike Abby, I am not good at letting people know where I'm at in my process. I keep it all inside. I don't say a lot. That is actually not helpful because people don't know how to interact with you when you might be going through something. So with all that being said, Abby, welcome to Gray Maybe. Is there anything you'd like to add to that weird intro? It was kind of like up, down, side, side. I hit a couple corners and areas there right off the bat. Anything you want to share about what you're doing now or anything to add?
Yeah, I don't really have anything exciting to talk about, frankly. I'm just like in my little world, just trying to, survive in in this chaotic landscape. But I'm having some fun, getting some work done. I started making candles, like
Oh
just
my
I
gosh.
literally have them. I'll get you one. I got them right
Yes,
here.
I need one. I'm a candle whore. I'm a candle whore. I'm very specific about my fragrances, but I am a candle whore.
Yeah.
I can't relate more to just like I'm just in my world doing my thing, figuring it out. That's exactly where I've been, especially in the last couple years of the quote unquote chaotic world. I could not
Oh my God,
agree
yeah.
more.
Well, I
Um,
just to jump right in, I basically like I feel like I'm just now coming up from air and for air, and that's not necessarily just COVID. It was I got hit really hard every 2 years up until like this year. So it was my mom died, a significant relationship ended, COVID happened, meaning my livelihood was just shot. And it was like every single time I started to maybe get like a little bit back into the swing of things, something else just came and like my entire world would collapse again. And I feel like I'm truly just getting I was talking to someone a few days ago and I was like, I feel like I'm getting myself back finally after these things have all just consecutively happened. And now I'm starting to feel like myself. I'm starting to feel like, oh, I can have some fun. I can, like, you know, go out in the world and do things. But it was
right.
like, it's been a difficult time for everyone. But, I was like, one more thing cannot happen, please.
Yeah,
Like, I
everybody
need
only
some,
has so much that they can take. And yeah, that's
yeah,
like definitely there's, in the season, throughout the season, we're talking about compound grief and also like compound losses, like I wish people would associate relationships with loss and grief more because that is what happens, right? Like when you go through a breakup and it doesn't matter what the reasoning is, even if on the best terms and even if
yeah,
you're the one who decided I need to move on and do something different, like there is a readjustment, there's a mourning, there's a loss and there's a grief. And everybody talks like it's almost like we want to have any other name for grief. It's like, oh, I'm
yeah,
going through a breakup. And everybody knows what that means, or I'm going through a divorce, right? And everybody knows what that is. But what it is it's kind of like blankets this idea that, like, no, I'm grieving. Like, I'm grieving,
yeah,
how I got to this place, going through what I went through to get here, looking back, if you didn't want that situation to end, all of the, you know, ambiguous losses that you had planned for the future, like the expectations or the dreams of that. And it's a lot. Um, and I want to spend a lot of this season kind of like really exploring how, as a society, like we don't really want to deal with grief. We're very uncomfortable by it. We'll call it by any other name. We don't know how to go through it. We don't know how to help other people through it. And and I don't know if I'm going to come up with any answers at all, but but maybe it'll be a
yeah.
nice resource for people to tune in and hear from people who have gone through the fire, and like yourself, every year, 2 years, walked through that fire again, and to find you on the other side coming up for air. So you, as you so eloquently
Yeah.
said, and like how that is, like that hope that, like, hey, it can come back around, and that other people have been simultaneously dumped on over and over and over again, that it's not just
Yeah. Man, it's just one foot in front of the other constantly. Like, stagnant is the worst thing that you could like being stagnant, not trying to keep going, not trying to do the things even if it's just going for a walk or what it's that's what will kill you. It's when you just listen, we all have moments where we're like, screw it, I give up. I'm going to sit on my couch and I'm going to watch TV all day. And that's that. And I don't mean that as in stagnant. I just mean like losing the absolute will to carry on is when, you're really in trouble and you need to seek some help. But luckily, I have a good support system, people who understand what I've been through in some capacity. No one can fully understand because every single person's grief is different because in the instance of I lost my mother. And so that grief is different than losing a relationship or losing a friend. That's completely separate. My relationship with my mother was different than anyone else on the planet. So my grief is going to be different. My best friend lost her father I want to say 2 years ago. and her grief was different than mine, but we shared the compassion for each other and what we were going through at that time. And it's just a matter of allowing people to grieve in the way they need to grieve, as long as they're not harming themselves. You have to let people go through what they're going through without judgment. That's my biggest thing. It's the judgment. I have a lot of thoughts on that.
I want
I
to
feel
hear
like I
it.
was judged. Yeah, I think I was judged pretty harshly behind my back by several people about the way that I grieved my mother after she passed. But
Really?
first, yeah. So first of
Okay.
all, fuck you if you're judging anyone
Right.
on how they're
Right.
grieving.
For
So
sure.
my mom was a very lively woman. She lived a big full life. You've probably met her. She used to come to all of our
I
shows.
do think I met her, and I do like, and I don't know, like I can't recall you guys' relationship, but I feel like you guys were very close, and that's why this was like
Yes,
really especially hard. I think, everybody has different relationships with their parents. My father passed in April. We had a complicated relationship, so my grief is complicated. Like, and in some ways, it could be easier to move through that. I knew he was ill for a long time. We had a complicated relationship. I had been spending years kind of working through that relationship
yep,
and being the best I could be in it and for myself and all of those things. But when you have a parent that is like someone who is a ride or die, like on that level, like it's a whole different grief. So, but you felt people
yeah.
judged you for maybe being very public about it or how you dealt with it.
Well, because I think people who were not in my inner circle did not see what was truly happening. They only saw what's happening on social media. So they saw me go to Coachella about a month after my mom passed. They saw me go to Hawaii. They saw me traveling because that's literally what she told me to do. She told me to celebrate. She told me that this was in no way to stop my life, and I was to keep going no matter what, and just be be the person I am, and don't not let her not being here anymore, crush me. And of course, it did crush me.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing that has ever happened to me. But every single person's going to go through this. I am not special in that. It was just she was basically my whole family,
Well,
and
I'm gonna stop you. I'm
so
gonna pause you for
yeah,
1 second because, and I don't want to interject because I love everything you're saying. This is just what ran through my head. Yes, everyone will lose their parents, and that is a blessing that you were old enough to lose your parents, that you outlived your parents, right? That you are having a longer life than your parents. However, because of how different relationships work, you losing your mom may be like someone else losing their favorite pet, and I am not at all
yeah,
relating your
yes,
mom to someone's pet. But if you
100%,
just think of the thing that you don't want to lose most, and that's the one. So when someone
yeah,
tells you that was the worst thing that happened to me, that's their greatest loss. That's their greatest grief. And it may not be how they feel about their parents or some family member. It may not be how they feel about, this side or the other so yes, everyone will lose quote unquote their parents, but not everybody might have had a bond with their parent like you did. And so that is like
exactly.
it's it's magnified, but go on. So I hope
Yeah,
I didn't lose
and
your
she was
train of thought.
no, you're totally fine. Just in summary, she was basically like she wanted me to go skydiving. She wanted me to meet these people. She wanted me to go get shaved ice from this one stand in Hawaii. Like things that she had talked about wanting to do with me or for me or have me do. I was like, you know what? Let's roll. And this was actually a really cool thing that happened. Brittany O'Connor can attest to this too. She was in the car with me. So Brittany and my mom used to talk a lot. My mom became pretty close with some of my closest people. And Brittany is a little daredevil. She goes scuba diving all the time. She's jumped out of several airplanes. Like she loves the rush. And so my mom was like, let's all go skydiving. And I'm like, lady, you're in your late 60s. I'm never jumping out of something I should be just sitting quietly in with a seatbelt on. Like, it's not
Right,
happening.
let's
And
not
it was,
test fate here. I'm lucky to get on a plane and live through the flight, let alone jumping
dude,
off of it. Like I've got enough
yeah,
anxiety just for for the regular commercial flight. Okay.
Literally, if I'm having to take like a mood stabilizer to just get on the plane,
Right.
imagine what the fuck I have to take to jump out of it. So
Right. Right.
after she passed, we were driving up north. Someone was adopting her cat that she had, and we were taking the cat to them. And all of a sudden, I look over, and it's like people are just falling out of the sky. It is
Stop
one
it.
after another, like 10 at least. People had just parachuted out from somewhere, and it's me and Brittany, and she's like, guess you're gonna have to. And I was like, yeah, mom, you don't have to be so loud. Like
Yeah, like so
I'll do it. I'll
obvious.
So obvious. It was, I've never in my life seen just like a ton of, like, I've seen a skydiver. That's not new, but like it was so many of them that I was like, okay, now she's just throwing people out of the air
Hmm.
so that I will go jump out of a plane. Fine, I'll give in.
I'll tell you
It
right
was so
now, I
funny.
have driven all across the whole United States when I've been on shows and tours with Mickey Avalon, and I'm a lot of times the one driving. We have a very small tribe and crew
Yeah, yeah.
nowadays. And I have driven all over. I've been in the middle of fucking nowhere all over this United States. I have been to every state minus Alaska in the United States, some multiple times, multiple cities. I have never seen anyone skydive, like come down, like I'm just driving and like plop. No, I have never,
Yeah,
not one, not much less a dozen or
like a
more than one.
gaggle of
No,
humans just
no,
fly.
no, never seen it. It has never run into me ever, and I,
Yeah,
it's just yeah, no.
it was
So
wild.
that's
So it's like,
interesting.
you know what? Believe whatever you want, but the coincidence of that happening was
Yeah,
kind of insane, especially with the person I was with, what we were doing at the time. The whole trip was
right.
circled around her. And then she's like, still got to go skydiving. I'm like, quit being
Hmm.
so pushy. Jesus.
Did you
But
guys do
I
it?
did it. We
You
did
did
it.
it! Holy
Yeah.
shit!
I will tell you, it's not as terrifying as once you get yourself out of the plane, it's quite relaxing actually. I
Stop
did
it!
enjoy it, but the ride up was garbage. And
Oh my god!
the pilot was eating, like, he had a bag of Wendy's. He's just like
No,
eating Wendy's for, I'm
no.
like, can that not be the last thing I
Absolutely not.
smell
No, that's what I was
before
gonna
I kill
say. Is does
myself?
this
Yeah,
have to be the last thing I smell? That's exactly what I thought.
yeah,
Like I'm gonna.
yeah.
Okay, no. Oh my
But I
god,
did it.
what a funny story.
I don't
Congrats.
know
I'm
that
glad you
I'll
did
do
it.
it again.
Yeah, no.
Thanks. But it was fun. And it was like, it was perfect for Brittany and I, because I think it was a way for us to bond as well, because she in her own way was close to my mom. And so it was kind of like an honoring her
Right.
situation. But like, not everyone knows that. And so, I got sort of, I can't even remember the comments that I got, but at one point it was like, well, you're handling this really well. And it's like, oh, dude, like,
What a way to say that too, because there's another way to say that, and that way is, I'm so glad it looks like you're doing okay.
yeah, yes,
The not
exactly. It's
not
like,
the well, you're doing fine. Like, what does that imply? Like that you're just
yeah,
happy about it? That like you're cool? Like
yeah,
that you were like that you're soulless? That you're not sitting at home crying? Now, I find it insane that people were giving you that kind of
yeah.
feedback, because what I've noticed for myself and just in other moments where, I have a right to be visibly upset is that I feel this overarching feeling that people want me to be okay. And the more that I'm okay, the better they feel because
It's more
they're
comfortable for
uncomfortable.
them.
Yes, and I
Hmm.
know nobody wants to, most people are not trying to make it about them, but I think it's just natural for people not to want to feel anxiety, not to want to feel sadness, not and to when they see someone suffering feel so out of control and powerless that they need to crack a joke. I'm guilty of that all the time. That they need to offer a solution, that they need to change the subject, that they need to give advice, that they need to say at least, that they need to do like all of these things to like mediate their own anxiety of watching you have a reaction. And so I've always felt kind of when I talk to people, how badly are they invested in me feeling okay right now? How much I've talked about it with, like in other episodes about like the people pleasing of that, like noticing my own people pleasing in that moment of like, well, how much do I really want to get into it, or can I just make them feel better in this moment? So I
Yeah.
can't believe people were giving you that kind of judgment, and it's because I feel that like it seems so much like people can't tolerate the the uncomfortableness of it. So they'd be like happy, oh, I'm so glad you're doing things. I'm so glad you're getting out there, which also does give another kind of false impression that you're moved on. When in actuality, those
Yeah.
were the things you were trying to do to honor your mom. It was like a series of
Yes.
small funerals almost. Like everybody
Yeah.
understands what a
Literally,
funeral
I was
is.
spreading her ashes like in all these special places. Like I'm
Yeah.
like people aren't seeing that. They're seeing me have this snow cone to be like, my mom
Yeah.
told me to get this. Yay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm in the ocean, like hysterically
Yeah.
crying, like
Yeah.
spreading her ashes,
Yeah.
like they don't see that.
Right. And that
So
makes
mind your
sense to
business,
me.
man.
Right? Everybody understands the funeral and everybody understands the celebration of life. That's dressing it up. That's supposed to be a happy funeral, which, like, let's be honest,
Oh, I don't know about that because that's what I did. And that was one of the scenes where I felt the most judged.
because you did a celebration of life and you were too happy at it or something.
Yeah. Yep. I felt like
Wow.
I was too happy because
You
and
felt
people
like you
were
were too happy.
well, uh based on other people's reaction, it made me feel like
You
I was
feel
being
like,
too
okay.
happy. So it was very like kind of tiptoeing around me, not knowing how to act. I'm like, just act like I'm acting. Like, you have a good story? Tell me a good story. We're supposed to be celebrating
Right.
here. Like, I
Right.
don't, if I cry, great, but I don't feel like I want to cry at this moment. I'm supposed to be celebrating her. This is like her wish, and it was
Right.
very like, some people sort of wanted to be somber about it, and that's fine, that's their thing, but you're actually here for me now.
Right. Right.
So I'm gonna
Funerals are
need
for
you to
in
mirror
celebration of
me.
life. It's for the living actually. Like I mean, yes, you're celebrating the person, but they may or may not, they might be on to their next thing or I don't know. I don't know what happens, but it's
Yeah.
definitely much more well, cuz I'll tell you right now. The funeral for my father was a very traditionally Catholic funeral. My dad was not super religious, so it's for the people who are living. His family,
Mm-hmm.
the family members that were left on both my mom and my dad's side are all Catholic, somewhat religious. So like it was very much about them that
Yeah.
more than I feel like it was about him, and that's fine. It didn't bother
Yeah.
me, but I also was much more like you in that scenario. I did not cry at the funeral. I gave a eulogy. It was very important for me to speak the eulogy so that people could hear the story and not hear my emotion behind it. Like I wanted my
Sure.
words to be clear because I was very specific about the words I had written, and I wanted people to hear that message and not everything else around it. And I think
That's
like
exactly right.
funerals also in general, it's hard to separate the grief for that person from people's own fear of their own mortality, right? Their own
Yeah.
a lot of it, it's you can't always separate what, if someone's, it's kind of a collective grief of like, oh my god, this is going to happen to me, it's going to happen to everybody, it's going to happen to all the people, other people I really love that are around me, and I, like what is all of those feelings come up, I feel like often. And it's not just even about that person in general, it's about what it brings up for you. um
Yeah.
so this is a good conversation to remind everybody like grieving looks different for everyone. Some
Yeah.
people need to do what looks like moving on, but that might be moving through based on what their, what their loved ones' wishes were. A lot of
Yeah. And
loved
it's like, I
ones,
just wish people would understand. Do you know how hard it was for me to do those things and go
right,
celebrate and try and be
right.
happy as much as I and think of the good things? That was so hard. It's so much easier. It would have been so much easier for me to curl up in a ball the whole time and just cry myself
Right.
to sleep,
Oh, for
which I
sure.
have
Like,
done.
especially if it was that thing that was like, we were supposed to do this together, and now I'm going to do it not with you. No matter how much they
Hmm.
wanted you to, that's not comfortable. It's not fun. That's not a vacation. That's not a walk in the park. That's not
Yeah.
a good time.
No,
Like
none of it's
you could try to
fun.
make it as good a time as you can, but like let's
Yeah.
be real. It's not ideal. you know?
Yeah, and I used to get a lot of "you're so strong," whatever, and it's like, man, okay. One thing I will say for anyone who has not lost anyone, who who has loved ones that go through grief or processes like this, stop telling them to be strong. You're literally telling them to not show their emotion, to tough it out, and to just
Right.
duck their head and get through it. And I think it's so harmful. And frankly, it makes me want to punch them in the face every time someone be like, just be strong. It's like, you know what? No, I don't
Yeah.
want to be today. I don't
Yeah.
have to be the strong one today. I can collapse when I need to
Yeah.
collapse as long as I'm getting myself back up and, not causing harm to myself. But
Right.
like this was the biggest life altering thing that has ever happened to me. I don't need to be strong all the time.
Right.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
I agree with that sentiment. And I think there was one person who might have said that to me in regards to the recent passing of my father. And I kind of like, if someone else closer to me would have said it, I probably would have had more of an issue coming from this person who was kind of like an older gentleman who,
That
it was kind
tracks.
of it felt like, yeah, it felt like a generational thing. So I kind of was like, okay, yeah, that
Mhm.
tracks for you. Like, I'm not even going to really address that. But, I feel like there's also, this is slightly off topic. I feel like there's that also is really hard if someone who is dealing with a disability or terminally sick or is fighting cancer and they are fighting cancer, but someone's like they lost their fight or you've got to keep fight. Like if they feel like if they are like I am fighting cancer, then you're like yes, I keep going, But for people to tell someone you got to be strong, you got to keep fighting, you got to like, because it's like some people that maybe it's like, oh, thank you for the encouragement. But some people it's like, yo, what if I don't want to fight anymore? And what if I don't have the energy? And what if I don't feel like it? And what if I lose? So
Yeah.
then not only did I lose my life, but I lost my fight. I lost the fight.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I got the L. Like, I'm
yeah,
a
yeah,
loser because I passed.
yeah,
Like, what the fuck?
yeah. I don't like it. And I do
Mhm.
love, there is, you know, there is, there is a certain resiliency in life to have to deal with something really hard or deal with your own mortality on that kind of inescapable level. There is a
Yeah,
resiliency that people have when they have to go through that. I just don't know if we have the right word for it yet. And I know I get everyone's like intention is to be like encouraging and
totally.
like whatnot, but I don't know, man. If I'm dealing with some hard shit, the last thing I want to hear is like, "You gotta fight." I'm like, I'm not a warrior. I didn't go into the army. Like, I can't. Like, I don't even like firearms. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
not.
I'm not
I'm not
even
a
down with a
fighting type.
kickboxing class. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I can't say it with my words, like, I'm not into it. Like, I only fight with my words. That's about it. But yeah, so yeah, that's good to know. Like, so in your process, something that was not helpful was people being like, "Hey, just be strong," or "You got to be strong." Now's the time to be strong. Not
Yeah,
helpful.
my friend as well. I don't want to like say her name or anything because she didn't sign up for this, but she's had in our friendship, she's had two major instances: a father passing and a brother passing, and even those two griefs looked different on her because the relationships were different. But she and I have talked about this in depth. The whole "stay strong, you got to be strong, power through it," and it's like I'm not running a marathon here. I don't need to power through anything. Sometimes I need to power the fuck down and reset and be in my thoughts and just get and it really is just a momentum thing. Like I need to when I stop, I can't stay there too long. When I get up, I got to keep it moving when I can. And I'm not saying I'm staying strong. I'm just living still because what you're doing is getting used to a new life. It's the same thing after relationship. You're adjusting to a completely different life. After COVID, we're adjusting to a different life. It's let me adjust in the way that I need to get through this, and just ask me if I need anything. See if I want to grab coffee here and there, want to come over and bring like a bottle of wine or like some snacks or something. Like that's how you can be there for someone without I don't need words of encouragement, man. I need friends with their hand on my shoulder. I don't. I don't necessarily need you to talk me through how to get through the situation. I just need you to sit with me while I'm in the situation so that I know I have you. And, that's sort of, I think my friend and I have kind of, I don't want to say conquered the grief game, but we
You
kind of
have your
know what,
process. Yeah.
yeah, we know what each one of the other one needs. You know, through hers, I'm there for her. But even with her grief with her father, I was not able to be there in the same capacity that I was with her previous loss because now I've had a loss. And so now this is actually touching me a little bit too because it's triggering. So
Right. It's
while I was still able
reactivating.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, and while I was still able to be there and I still absolutely was trying to be the best possible friend, there was a slight step back that I had to take for my mental health as well.
Right. Right.
So, it's you got to check in with yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
think. It's why am I I definitely had mood situations. I wasn't maybe able to communicate as best as I could because my brain was just in a thousand places. And, physically, when you're going through grief, your body feels pain too, And so you're just going through all this stuff. And I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No, this is a relationship with your friend. You both have these
Oh,
griefs,
yeah.
and you had to kind of step
Yeah.
away for a second because it'll re-trigger some of that if you're not
Yeah.
have enough time and space, and maybe there's never enough time and space, and that's always going to be something you have to kind of monitor.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's, you just have to do what's best for you and stop worrying about everyone else. That's
Yeah.
that's where I landed. I tried it the other way and it didn't work. I tried to be accommodating to other people's emotions while I was going through like the peak of my grief. And I think part of not being able to communicate is a factor in why my relationship ended. I'm not saying we ended because my mother died. That's not the case. But I will say it heightened things, and
Right.
it brought a lot of things to light, and it changed the way I reacted to some things because I didn't maybe have the tolerance I had previously had.
Right. Of course.
I had a little short string that I was hanging on by. And so smaller things would make me react differently than they would in the past. And I would say that that was a contributing factor to that end. But, we live and learn, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point you bring up that when someone is in extreme grief, um, and you talked about the body, the physical pain that comes with that, which I
hmm
also can say someone who's had depression on and off their whole life, that is real. Like there is a body, yeah, you raised your hand. Like there's a
hmm
body aching that you can't quite actually even pick. Like when people say heartache, that is real. Like when your heart aches, but it's not like I'm having a heart attack. It's a
No,
pain, but it's a pain nonetheless that is like you can't always pinpoint it, but it is there, and it's like it's
it's
heavy and
there.
it's painful, and um, when you're experiencing that kind of sensations and going through a grieving like that or a depression, there's a you don't have as much tolerance. You don't have the capacity to have some of the patience that you might have on your best day, right? And that's anybody.
Yes.
When you're having a shitty day, by the end of the day, if there's been a few things that have happened that have made that day bad and you haven't been able to turn it around, by that night, you're not going to have the patience for, something that normally you would have the patience for, right? Like something
Yep.
that usually would be funny is now the biggest fucking inconvenience that you've experienced? And I
Yeah.
think that's what happens, right? Like there isn't a ton of tolerance, there isn't a ton of capacity. And I would even be so gregarious to say that a lot of people that are having a lot of these like mental outburst problem situations, public things, I want to say I'm going to go ahead and I have a theory, unproven, untested, that maybe that is some residual from what's happened the last couple of years. of
A
people
hundred
not
percent.
having the capacity, not having the tolerance to deal with one more thing. And
Yep.
when people say they snap, that is kind of what happens, right? So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that's very real, and I think everybody can understand that on some level, even if they haven't walked through depression or
Yeah.
a significant grief or loss, that there are those days where you just now don't have that extra give. And that is kind of just where grief, loss, and depression sits, is like you always don't have
Yeah.
that extra.
No, and I wish at the time, not to say that anything would have changed. I'm happy in where I'm at right now, but I wish at the time I would have had the tools and the capacity to sit down and be like, I need you to be more empathetic. I'm still grieving. Like it didn't stop 3 months after she died. Like this is an ongoing process. You know, that wasn't even the hardest time for me. And I didn't feel the empathy and the compassion that I wish I would have gotten, or that I feel like I would have given. So like that's the thing. It's like the people in your life that are going through grieving processes, depression, anxiety. It's like, can we just have some fucking compassion and empathy for our people? Like, there's a point where you step in if you feel like things are harmful, but you gotta let people get through this because for me, I was trying to figure out what my life looked like now. Like my entire life, it was me and my mom. And now she's gone. What does that mean? I was trying to find myself again. Like, who am I without my mother? And
Mm,
that's not a quick turnaround. That's going to
no.
take some time.
Yeah.
And, it's just, I can't say it enough, just empathy and compassion always. You just got to show people that because you truly don't know what's happened to them, where they are in any process. And, some people are just assholes, let's be honest. But for the most part, if people are, if one of your friends is acting a little strange or whatever, it's have some compassion and talk to them and
Right.
ask them what's going on. Ask them if they're okay. Ask
Right.
them if you can help and be there for them. That's all I
Right.
needed. I have some very special people in my life that were able to do that for me, and I have some people that were in my life who were not able to do that for me, and
Who have not made the cut since.
haven't made the cut. Yep. No, I'm sorry. I just, at this point in my life, and I think everyone should be in the same headspace. Like, I don't have the time for the people who don't have the time for me.
Right.
And it's just like, I love my people very deeply, and I feel the same from them. And it's not worth it for me to have shallow relationships anymore. I don't need the good time gal to go out with. I don't need a million friends. I'm good with five that I trust with my entire heart. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've found that tribe and those people, but definitely through grief, I lost a lot of people. Not a lot,
Right.
but I definitely lost people who I thought were my close friends.
Right.
They couldn't handle it. They couldn't
Right.
be, when the fun stopped, they were out basically.
Right. When
So
fun
they weeded
Abby,
themselves.
yeah, when fun Abby had, to deal with some real shit, they were like, "Oh, I'm good." Yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Exit stage
Well, and I think,
left.
yeah, I think like, I think that's a lot. Again, going back to people's inability to sit and tolerate discomfort. I think it's why practicing holding space for people is so important and something we as a society have never been really taught how to do. And unless it's been modeled, for us or someone's really taught us how to do it, we've been raised kind of around people who have kind of done the same thing over and over again, which is showed us how to cover up their own anxiety through difficult situations. And so it's offering solutions that no one's asked for. It's offering advice that no one's asked for. It's saying things like at least and trying to like give it the silver lining that no one asked for or needs necessarily. It's the saying, it's saying be strong. It's all these things that their hope is to inspire you to say something, to feel like they're offering something, but really all it is mediating their own anxiety because it's so painful to sit and watch someone suffer. And watching someone suffer brings up their own suffering. So they either sit with it and have to just sit with you with it, which is what holding space is sometimes.
Hmm.
Or they, what my friend Jada, who's got a master's in psychology, will say is they purge it. And so they try to push
Oof.
it as far away from them by saying those things and doing those things because they can't tolerate the feeling.
Oh,
Um,
I witnessed a lot of purging during
yeah,
the height of my grief. Yep.
yeah.
They were
It
uncomfortable and they didn't want to sit in their own shit, and I was
no,
reminding them of you know, that that type of feeling, and they weren't in.
yeah. And like I
So
get it,
bye.
not everyone can tolerate it, because especially if you do suffer with your own mental health or you like you said when you were going through your stuff and your friend was also going through your stuff, like not every you have to, be honest about how much of that you can take, how much of that you can lend yourself to, and be reasonable, but at the same time like it's just hard to do and that's why nobody wants to do it. Now,
Yeah.
was there anything that you recall that surprised you about grief or about this process
Um,
or even just
such a
about loss?
downer. Well, the what I will say is like the worst, it doesn't go away. You just you're better equipped. So I still miss my mom terribly. Every single day I think about her. I talk to her constantly and I want to pick up the phone and call her right now. And I can't do that and that's still painful. However, it's not the pain it was before. And I now I don't know if I've sort of trained myself, but anytime I have an image that won't leave my head, which is not great. It's her in a hospital bed, and it unfortunately it lives there, and it's not going anywhere, and there's nothing I can do to get rid of it. So what I've been trying to train myself to do, and I actually think it's working, is the second that image pops up, I go directly to another image. I have to think about her laughing or her doing something that she loves, or just in a good place and healthy. Like I have to switch it out because if I live in that space, it's going to get dark and I don't want that for myself. I want to be happy. I want to be lighter. I don't want to always be in the heavy place. Um, so that's what helps me get out of it. And I have little things throughout my house, not like big photos of her or anything, but things that are for me that I know have her, essence or like it's something that she enjoyed. And so I have little things here and there, so it doesn't look like a shrine to my dead mom, but it's
I
things
wasn't
for
going to say
me.
it, but I
Yeah.
wanted to.
I just my entire apartment's a shrine.
Yeah.
No, but it's
I mean,
little like she liked fireflies. I got a little firefly here and there,
great.
and it just
Yeah.
makes me feel like she's still here, even though I know physically she's not. But it makes me happy to keep things that she enjoyed around me. Yeah. So
Yeah.
grief is one of the more difficult things I've ever gone through in my life. I would say. And life is trying. We all go through a lot, but it's the one thing that it's inevitable. You can't avoid it. It doesn't matter how much money it doesn't matter what your status is in life. It's happening to you and I like as a community, we all just need to be there. Let people fall when they need to fall, help them get up, dust their knees off for them and just take some pride and uh, in ourselves by helping other people. That makes me feel really good about myself when I can be of service to someone. That's a love language to me. I really like to be in service, and I enjoy other people who like that as well. And that's like if you can get a tribe of people that are service driven and want to really love each other and take care of each other, that's the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to live in small communities that gather around when someone needs it. And the way our society is currently built, that is not the case. And we're sort of like on this journey alone. Um, but don't keep to yourself. You got to pull those people in. Sorry, I feel like I'm
This
rambling at this
Nope,
point.
nope, and I wanted you to keep going because I talk about tribalism a lot in my
Yeah.
when I make observations about, my world and how we're moving through this world. You're absolutely right about tribalism. If you think about how humans first kind of became in their little societies, they were small. Everybody knew everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody knew what their innate gifts were that they helped with the tribe. And, you know, if you got thrown out of the tribe, aka shunned, if you did something so bad to get kicked out of the tribe, that was your survival, right? So that the abandonment fears we have, whether they're real or not, like very rarely are we abandoned by someone and it's going to be our livelihood, right? As adults,
Mhm.
but that's what it triggers in a survival as someone who, we are innately tribal. And we have now mistaken things like all of the people we know on Facebook and Instagram as our tribe. And we were never meant to know that many people. We were never meant to keep that
Mhm.
many people straight. We were never meant to know that many things about other people and compare and despair about that. Like it has our, we still see it as our tribe of everyone we know, but it is so um, absolutely so far from what it actuality would be to make us happy. And you brought up being of service. When you think of being in a small community or small tribe, everybody does what they do to help out. It's very communal. You feel like you have purpose because you are a part of helping everybody else. And I think there's something really magical about being in of service. They talk about a lot of that in recovery rooms. So if you're familiar with 12 steps, anyone who's listening, if you've been a part of a 12-step program, you know anything about 12 steps, being of service is a big, big deal, not only in running the meetings and in the program, but also encouraging people to be of service in their life in some way, shape, or form. Um, and that can look a lot of different ways, right? That can look like meeting someone for coffee who's gone through something, or that can look like helping someone move or helping someone with a show they're doing, that you're not being paid for, or maybe paid for, I don't know, or like, just these different things helping out in your tribe of people. And people laugh a lot because when people thank me for things, a lot of times I will say I'm happy to be of service. And they think I'm joking, and I am a little bit because sometimes I salute to make it
Yeah,
extra
yeah, yeah.
funny. But I am kind of
Cuz you're a
serious. Like I'm
showgirl.
Yeah, it's because I'm a showgirl, and I should do the splits when I do it too. But some people think it's kind of like a joke, and I have said it to people in a joking matter, like when they do something like really minute, I might be like, "Thank you for your service," like or something
Yeah,
that isn't
yeah.
necessarily service driven. So I do joke about it a lot, but there is something to that, and like I know that when I'm not in the best place, I need to do more being of service, but that's the
Yeah.
last thing I want to
Yeah.
fucking do when I'm there. Let me tell you. Let me like
Totally.
the hard part isn't doing the service. The hard part is going to do this, like from going from that's the last thing I want to do to doing that thing. The
Yep.
contrary action of that is so difficult. And that's
Yes.
like in the grief, like reach out. No, like that might be really hard. And yes, that's contrary action, right? Usually, the thing you want to do least is what you should do most. Like if the
Yeah.
thing you want to do least is get off the couch and take a shower, then that's probably the thing you need to do most. If the last thing you want to do is talk to anyone, probably the first thing you should do is talk to someone. But that's the head trip, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, but it's worth it. If you do the thing, you I wouldn't say rewarded for it, but it does help. It's the hard stuff. Getting through the hard stuff, you feel better on the other side of doing whatever that task was, even if it was just going to the grocery store. You've accomplished something. It's everything is baby steps, one foot in front of the other.
Hmm. And in alignment with that, like I found, and I've said this over time a lot in the last season, secrets keep us sick. And so, and I don't mean a secret like, something traumatizing that happened to you that you were told, don't you dare say this or I'll kill you. Like, I mean, any
Sure.
secret. So, like, I don't drink, I'm sober. There's been moments where I am like, why am I sober? Now, the interesting thing is I might say that to people around me, like, I don't even know why I'm sober. But guess who I won't say that to is alcoholics. And guess those are the people I should be saying that to. Like, those are exactly the people I need to be like, hey, why am I even sober? Those are the people I should be telling those secrets to, right?
Yeah.
Or and I mean the first step to even say it out loud is obviously like outing yourself, but then take it to the next level. Say those things to the people who need to hear those things, right?
Yeah.
Like there are people, certain secrets need to be heard by certain groups of people, so I think that's another thing is like, and I think
I
that's
agree.
what I witnessed you be so good at is like really being honest about like, I'm so fucked up over my mom dying. Like, I never thought you were having a good fucking time.
No,
Not only
it
did I
wasn't. It
not
was
only did I
not
witness
easy.
you not having it, like, first of all, there were times you weren't around because of this situation, right? So I knew about it before I even saw you. And then there were times I saw you and you were like, I'm just fucking trying to get through. I'm like fucking drowning. I'm just trying to get through it? And then there were times like I never saw any of your happy shit. So apparently, like I saw like the entire, and I just thought it was so badass that you were so unapologetically honest about it, because as honest as people think I am, it has just been in the last several years or couple years that I've decided to be really honest. I'm honest in my opinions, but I'm not honest about my own experiences until the last couple of years. So anytime I see someone be that bold, I'm like, oh, yes. So, like, you being so absolutely, you know, and like not uncensored, grief of like, this is bad. This is terrible. Like, I hate it. Like, everything about, and like, I found that very refreshing, and it's not about me and it wasn't for me, but you have like, I
No,
hope
that's
you
good.
know that like it was authentic and obviously something that stuck with me since you were one of the first people I thought about to come on to the podcast. And
Yeah.
even though it's been a few years, like, and we aren't always in touch, I was just like, man, Abby went through that like real honest and real loud and like,
I feel like I did think. I mean, I actually think that's a being called bold by another bold woman. I will never turn that down. I appreciate it. Like you would not understand. But I just, I think I was at a point where I was like, fuck everyone else. Who gives a shit?
mm-hmm,
Like, I have to be here. This is my work. This is, I don't work for someone else. This is my shit. If I'm not here, things don't
right,
happen. I don't have a
right.
choice. I have to be here. It is what it is. Listen, I'm gonna be here in whatever capacity I can be here. Sorry if you're uncomfortable, but
And it
I
didn't
mean,
feel like
I don't
anybody
really care.
was. Yeah, and
Yeah, no, I didn't think.
it didn't seem like it wasn't it didn't do a disservice to anyone or anything. It was just being
Yeah,
really real instead of being like, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm just going through it." You were just like, "Yeah, it's
no.
bad. It's bad."
Yeah, I wasn't trying to put on a happy face
No.
when I didn't want to.
No.
That was I just like I need to be true to myself. You however whatever my emotion makes you feel, that's not my problem. Like that's you this is what I'm going through. If you're not able to deal with that, well that's on you. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to be fake to make you comfortable. I'm gonna be who I am, and if you don't like that, that's fine. You don't have to be around me. We can do that. But I got to stay true to myself, and frankly, I'm not a good enough actress to fake it anyway. So why try?
No, I mean, I think it's remarkable and I think everybody could learn something from that because I wonder if we all started paying attention to how many times during the day for some of us who are like really people pleasy or, whatever, like how many times during the day we adjust our reactions or our situations to kind of caretake other people and their responses.
Mhm.
And the fact of the matter is when you're going through some kind of grief or grieving or loss or depression, whatever, you absolutely have to remind yourself that you're not responsible for other people's reactions. You're not responsible for the anxiety they're feeling listening to you. You're not responsible for their sadness that it triggers within them. Like, you're not responsible for other people's feelings. You're not responsible for other people's reactions. I mean, that's like a huge staple of like a lot of recoveries is like, you
Yeah.
know, not not taking other people's feelings like you're responsible for them, especially depending on the household you grew up in.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of just wish that everyone could just drop the act and just be honest. And I don't mean like, yeah, yeah, be nice to people. Sometimes you don't feel like being nice and you'll be nice. I don't think that's like an act. I think that's just trying to be genuinely a good human. But if we all just like kept space for other people to express shit, like if I'm having conversation with you and you say something triggering to me, I want to feel comfortable being like, oh, this is a super triggering subject and I don't think I can continue in talking about that. Can we talk about something else, or like can I bounce the fuck out of here? I don't know. I think that you honesty is literally the only way to get through life. You can't fake it till you make it. There's no such thing. You were trying until you make it. And it's just, you are responsible for your emotions. No one else is. You are responsible for how you react to things. And if you feel that you're going to have a negative reaction, then either pull yourself out of the situation or be honest about it and say, this makes me feel XYZ. And because of that, I need to, leave, quit talking, whatever it is. Just be on. It's easy with the people who are close to, like, I've got friends that I could be like, yeah, I'm not talking about that right now. And they'll
Mhm.
be like, okay. And it's
Mhm.
just full stop and they're good and it doesn't
Mhm.
matter and doesn't change our relationship. But you have to be honest. There's no reward for being fake. There's no reward for hiding true feelings. You're not going to get anything out of that by trying to make other people feel comfortable. And I don't try to make other people feel uncomfortable, but I'm also not taking ownership over their
Mhm.
emotions and reactions.
Mhm. I think that's healthy. I think that's really healthy. I love that you said, don't fake it till you make it. Just, you're trying until you make it. I think that's like a big one. I hate the phrase fake it till you make it. I might have said it
Hmm.
once or twice under the
Oh, I'm
guise
sure
of
I
like
have.
but like under the guise of like faking confidence, but I don't even like saying that because I want you to find something authentic to relate to for confidence, and confidence is such a hard thing to kind of
Yeah.
curate, right? Because it is something that unless you can pretend to be someone else, which is one way you can do it, you could pretend to be the confident person that you are seeing that you would like to be like, or you can, think of something about yourself that is undeniable that can bring confidence, or there is this idea like fake it till you make it, but you still have to go through a process of how to fake it. If you don't have real confidence, you still have to find a way. So I love that you just trying, because it's the same thing. If you're gonna fake it till you
Yeah.
make it, you're still trying till you make it. The only difference is you're not being inauthentic. You know,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you have like do you have any kind of like a belief system or a spirituality that kind of helped you through this? And in addition to this question, and you did kind of touch on it already. So if you had another experience you wanted to mention like that, the mystical thing of the people falling from the sky,
Yeah.
if there's any other kind of unexplained,
Yeah.
I like to
Oh,
I
I
like to
got
branch
tons of those.
belief system, spirituality, and also like branch them with like unexplained mystical magical stuff, because I find that most people who've gone through a loss have one of these to share,
Yeah.
at
So
least one somewhere.
as far as spirituality, my belief system is that we should just treat people with kindness. And I know that I haven't always done that, but I, that's what the literal Bible is. It's a guidebook. It's originally meant as a guidebook to make people, one, try and be good to each other, and the other part is the controlling factor. We don't need to talk
Right.
about that.
Right.
But it was in a sense like, yo, you guys, calm down, be good. And really, it is just being kind. If you see someone that needs help, help them. If someone falls down, help them up. I just saved a dog from almost getting hit by a car the other day. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just try and be the best version of yourself as you can, and that is my entire philosophy. But I don't really have like a faith base. But I do believe that we are connected, and there's a universal sort of thing, even if it's just gravity doing shit to us. I think we're all connected, and I think things happen for a reason. And I do believe that the universe will conspire for you if you're willing and open to it. Um, so I did have another pretty good one happen. I was in my anger portion of my grief process.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was very mad at my mom for being gone. I was furious with her because I was still feeling her in situations, or like felt connected to her for a while. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's the mind playing tricks on me or if she actually was in an aura around me. Who knows? But I choose to believe that she was here. Like her spirit was still like chilling, trying to make sure I'm okay. And then I stopped feeling it. And I got really mad. And I'm like, oh, you left me again. I mean, I already had abandonment issues before. Now you're
Mhm.
dead.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now your spirit has also left me.
Mhm.
And I know how that sounds, but those were the feelings inside of me. I just felt completely alone, completely abandoned. And I was so fucking mad at her. And
Mhm.
that is a little weird to say out loud, but I mean, like, I was angry. And so I took my dog for a walk. Sorry, he's right here. I'm like, please don't stand up and want one. Um, for WALK.
Yep, he
And
heard it.
yep, he did perk up. And I'm like stomping through the hill, walking up in the hills in Hollywood, and I'm literally just I must have looked like I was on my way to murder someone. I was so mad. I'm just stomping through and dragging my dog. And I'm like, why aren't you here? I don't feel you. Why did you leave? And I'm just like pissed, and I'm crying. And all of a sudden, this like swarm of something like comes over the hill right above me, and it's a swarm of dragonflies.
Oh
I
shit.
don't know if
I've
in
never seen a
nature,
dragonfly in California.
let alone in the hills.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know
dragonflies
if
and people falling from the sky are not things I've seen.
So I don't know if that's how they travel. I don't know if it's like a
I've
pack
never seen
type
them in
thing that they
swarms.
do.
I
I've
I grew
only
up in
seen them.
Minnesota and they didn't grow in swarms. There you would see them
Swarm.
out in
And
the lake and sometimes you'd see two of them if they're mating, but
yeah, exactly. You just see them on top of each other and
yeah.
that call it a day. But yeah, same with me. This is the only time I've seen that, and they're literally like following me. It's just this massive. It's kind of gross actually because you think about just a bunch of bugs following me,
No,
but
but
it was
dragonflies are very cool, beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, they're very
yeah. But
pretty.
it was all dragonflies, and I just stood there and I was like, hey, I get it. Like
Yeah, you're
you're
like, "Okay,
here,
thanks."
Jesus. She was
Right.
very loud, and even in the
Yeah.
afterlife, her messages have been quite loud and pronounced. But that was I was like, okay, I'll relax. And it did give me, so whether you believe it or not, it gave me relief, and that's all I need to know. You know, it made me feel like I wasn't alone, and it made me feel like I was still connected to her, and it was really weird. But yeah.
I
She's
love
done that
that
a few
story.
times to me. Yeah.
That's
Just a
great.
swarm. Well, because I guess I didn't even tell you. Well, I mentioned it earlier, but dragonflies are like her favorite thing. She loves them.
Right, you had
She has a
said
she had a dragonfly tattoo. She had little trinkets everywhere. And so it's like now that's my little thing. I can just put one up in a room here. It's not obnoxious. It's not like my whole house, but I have like a little gold one in my living room and then like a line drawing of one over there, and it just
mhm.
makes me feel good.
I
Makes
love
me
it.
feel
What a great
connected.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. Love it. So, I have one last question for you. I often don't like to give unsolicited well, no, that's not true. I love giving unsolicited advice, but I try not to give unsolicited advice. And I try not to ask other people to give unsolicited advice. But on the podcast, I always like to ask, what is your suggestion for people who might be suffering right now? Do you have a suggestion for anyone who may be deep in their grief right now?
um, man, you just have to keep going. You know, your life's not over. You just keep going. Crash when you need to crash. If you need to shut off here and there, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I've done it. One one thing I've thought about is having having one or two people, if you're fortunate enough to have these types of friends in your life, which I hope everyone does, having people that you can just maybe say one thing to, or even if it's like sending an emoji to them to let them know that maybe you need them, and not things from them, but maybe I need it. Can you just come sit on the couch? Just a little inside thing where if I send you like a fucking couch emoji, you know that I just want you to come and sit down and watch TV with me. It's just finding ways to ask for help without having to be like, I need
I need
help,
help.
because
Right.
that's so hard to do. It is so hard to
Yeah.
ask for help. So if you have one conversation with one or two of your closest people, and you can say, if I'm not okay, I'm gonna do this, whether it's text you like XO or something, then if you're available, it would be cool if you could come by, or we go to a park or something. But yeah, I just keep going. It gets better. The pain never truly goes away, but I will say that I'm in a great place right now, even though I've gone through all of this. I feel good. I take care of myself, which was hard. That was hard. That's one thing going to the gym or getting any sort of exercise was really difficult when I was in the peak. But it did help every time I did go. Not to say that I went all the time. I definitely gained a few, but who cares, right? Like, in the grand scheme of things, as long as you're taking care of yourself, who cares what you weigh? But I just uh, just move and have your people around you, and don't make excuses, or don't feel bad about feeling bad, and be able to tell people, I feel like shit right now. You don't have to be the life of the party all the time. You don't have to be the friend that's, always down for whatever, never cancels. Cancel plans. Who cares? If you need to be in your feelings, be in your feelings. Just be able to communicate that as well. Like, I feel totally fine in this part of my life, texting a friend that I had plans with, saying, I'm not feeling great and I don't know that I'm going to be in the best mood. Can we reschedule? I don't have a problem with saying that. I wish more people were that too. And we're also understanding of receiving that communication. Yeah, empathy.
Abby, I loved everything you said today. Thank you so, so much for coming on Gray Maybe and telling about your experience and talking about the hard stuff. I really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm so happy to have done this. I love what you're doing here. Speaking of bold, it is very bold to be talking about the subject matters that you have chosen. They're taboo, and I love it. I'm living for it. I know that there's probably a lot of people that are not even saying anything to you that appreciate what you're doing. So keep doing the good work for all of us, and talk about the shit that no one wants to talk about so we can hear
Man,
it.
thank you so, so much. I
Of
appreciate that
course.
because, yes, it's definitely, I'm not picking the light and bright stuff, unfortunately. But I'm not light and bright, so what do you expect? Uh,
Amen.
Thank you so much.
All right.
It was so great to catch up with Abby and get more insight to her experience with grief and the complications that can arise when people around you are unfamiliar with the grieving process. Abby has always been a very strong and powerful energy to me in voice, in business, and in body. And she has always been a bold and courageous example of navigating her grief authentically. I feel so much gratitude for knowing her and being able to witness her process. If you're listening to this episode and you're experiencing grief, welcome, and I hope this helps your journey. You're not alone. Just a reminder for anyone who needs to hear it, you don't need to have experienced a giant catastrophic event or a death to experience grief. Know that whatever you're feeling, there are those among us who have probably felt it too. You're not alone. If you're listening and you have someone you love in your life that is grieving, welcome. You are also not alone. We as a society have a long way to go in being able to tolerate and help those closest to us manage grief. I've included a link in the show notes for the do's and don'ts, which I'm going to read here. Don't assign positive meaning to their loss. In our effort to encourage and support the griever, we may try to project the current situation into a better future way too soon. Saying, "Time will heal all things," is not helpful. Prophesizing a future positive meaning on top of the grieving person's crushing and devastating loss tends to minimize the griever's current agony, essentially suggesting that they sweep their pain under the rug while focusing on some potential positive long-term outcome. Stay in the moment with the griever. Follow the grieving person's lead. Be an attentive, active listener. Allow the griever to take the conversation where it needs to go. Make room for plenty of silence. Don't jump in to fill space with unnecessary commentary. Sometimes before a two-way conversation can even begin, the griever just wants someone to sit with, literally or virtually. No questions or words of comfort are needed to fill silence. Presence is often what the griever really needs. On their own, sometimes the grieving person will identify a silver lining or hopeful thought that adds meaning to their loss. This is a normal and often constructive way to cope with grief. Remember, the griever is the only person who can know what this loss means to them. Only the griever can make meaning of their experience. Once they do so, it's appropriate to support them in their newfound hope. Use the name of the lost loved one. While you are comforting the griever, all of their emotions are tied up in the loss of their beloved. Saying their loved one's name out loud is a way of validating the life of that person. Say Anne, not your sister. Say Alan, not your son. Say Stu, not your husband. Don't ever be afraid to mention the person lost. Grievers want to talk. Memories are all that remain after a loss, and talking about the person who died helps to keep them alive in broken hearts. Refrain from platitudes. Refrain from platitudes, religious or otherwise, like, "They are in a better place," or "Time heals all things," or "Everything happens for a reason." Don't pretend that you know the answer. You don't. No one does. As a person who desires to support a griever, pay attention to what you say. Never say anything that starts with the phrase, "at least." Comparing and contrasting your own grief experiences or dreamed up hypothetical ones with the reality of the loss that just happened is missing the mark in several ways. Making your loss the topic of conversation is asking the grieving person to switch their focus and empathize with your grief at a time when the total focus should be on them. Don't say, "I know how you feel." You don't. Seems to me describing how something worse could have happened represents a thwarted attempt to say something, no matter how unhelpful. Stay out of your empty word, ill-informed autopilot script. Choose not to go there. Be open to the expression of any emotion. As an active listener, be open to any emotions the griever may express through verbal or nonverbal means. Anger, yelling, silence, rage, disbelief, denial, crying, pacing around the room, shouting, rocking back and forth, wringing hands, clenched fists, avoiding eye contact, needing to be held, avoiding touch, etc. Be observant about what the griever is expressing, overt or subtle, and allow a safe space to be in that moment. Do not in any way tell them not to feel what they are feeling. Remember anniversaries. Try to remember anniversaries such as the birthday of the person who died and the anniversary of the date of their death. Sending a card or a text will let the griever know that you are remembering too, reminding them that they are not alone. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you were able to find something relatable in today's episode. If you'd like to show your support for this podcast, consider making a donation on Spotify. It would also be very helpful if you could rate, share, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to contact the podcast, please email graymaybestories@gmail.com. GreymayBeststories @gmail.com. Thank you to everyone who helped make this Gray Maybe podcast happen. Producer and editor, Roderick Barge. Cover photo by Jose Perez. Music licensed by Pixabay. Special counsel, Jada Ellingham and Roderick Barge. Special shout out to supporter, Patty Olgan. Until next time, bye for now.